Rosalie Hale, the tragedy behind the beauty. She was meant to be Edward's perfect match, but Rosalie Hale never wanted love on someone else's terms. Not from Carlisle, not from fate, and definitely not from the man who left her for dead in the snow. This is the story of a woman the world thought they understood. Therefore, this is the truth of who she really was and what she became. Rosalie Hale was born in 1915 into a life that glittered on the outside. Her father worked at a bank, her mother stayed home, and her days were filled with manicured gardens, silk dresses, and careful smiles. Therefore, it would be easy to believe Rosalie's life was perfect. But then, appearances lie. Her beauty became her burden. Wherever she walked, eyes followed. Whispers bloomed. She was expected to marry well, behave better, and never want more than what she was given. In a world designed to worship beauty, Rosalie became a pedestal for other people's expectations. And that pedestal was a prison. She was engaged to Royce King II, the son of one of the wealthiest families in Rochester. On paper, he was everything a woman of her status should desire. Handsome, powerful, well-positioned. But Royce didn't love Rosalie. He coveted her, possessed her, used her image as an ornament to elevate himself. One night, Rosalie walked home alone. Therefore, she never saw it coming. Royce and his drunken friends cornered her, laughed at her, hurt her, left her in the snow, broken and bleeding, a perfect tragedy in white. And that is when Carlisle found her. Carlisle Cullen, a man who had seen too much loss to let beauty become waste. He turned Rosalie, not because she asked, not because she consented, but because he hoped she could have another life, one not bound by fear or cruelty. But then Rosalie awoke, not to salvation, but to fury. She did not crave blood. She craved justice. Unlike Edward, she never lost herself to the hunger. Her focus remained razor-sharp. Therefore, she used her new strength with chilling clarity. Dressed in the wedding gown she was meant to wear, Rosalie hunted down each man who had destroyed her life, one by one. She left Royce for last. She made sure he knew it was her. She made sure he felt fear, but she never drank his blood. I was a monster, she later told Bella, but I was also still me. That choice, to stop, to spare, to remember who she was, defined Rosalie in a way most Twilight fans overlook. She wasn't cruel, she was in control. Carlisle had hoped she would be a mate for Edward, but Rosalie saw him as a brother. They were too different. Edward was introspective, burdened by morality. Rosalie was external, expressive, anchored to her humanity. But then she met Emmett. It wasn't planned. She stumbled upon him in the forest, his body torn open by a bear. Most would have let him die. Even Carlisle might have hesitated. But Rosalie carried him miles to her family. She begged for his life, because something in Emmett reminded her of humanity, not hers, but the kind she wanted to protect. Therefore she chose him, not as a symbol, not to fulfill a role, but because he made her laugh, because his soul was light where hers was heavy. Emmett didn't flinch at her strength. He embraced it. He saw her not as porcelain but as wildfire. And in Emmett, Rosalie finally had someone who looked past her face. They weren't perfect. No couple is. But their love was simple in a world that constantly complicated everything. Rosalie didn't have to explain herself to Emmett. He never asked her to be anything other than exactly what she was, and that, in a life full of masks and expectations, was a kind of salvation she never expected. Rosalie is often portrayed as vain, cold, or petty in the Twilight Saga. But then, what if that wasn't the whole picture? When Bella enters the Cullen's world, Rosalie is the sharpest thorn. She judges. She questions. She resents. But underneath that prickly exterior is fear. Not of Bella, but of what Bella represents. The casual abandonment of something Rosalie would give anything to have. A heartbeat. Rosalie never wanted immortality. Therefore, she never embraced it with the same abandon as others. She wanted a child, a family, a life that ended. So when Bella risks everything to become one of them, Rosalie recoils. But then, when Bella becomes pregnant with Renesmee, Rosalie is the first to defend her. Not because she approves of Edward's choice, but because this child represents the only miracle Rosalie will never get. She will protect that dream, even if it isn't hers. That's loyalty. That's grief. That's what makes Rosalie one of the most tragic figures in the Cullen family. And yet, there's another layer often missed. Rosalie saw in Renesmee a new beginning. Not just for Bella, but for herself. Someone to nurture. Someone to shield. And for the first time in decades, she felt joy. There's a quiet moment in Breaking Dawn when Bella sees Rosalie smiling, cradling the baby with a tenderness that feels centuries old. It wasn't just about the child. It was about what Rosalie could still be, not just protector, but creator of peace. There are smaller stories threaded through Rosalie's narrative. Her quiet friendship with Jasper, both of them older souls in younger bodies, both carrying their past like armor. Her complicated dynamic with Alice, the two of them opposites in energy, but united in their deep, almost sisterly connection. And of course, her fierce protectiveness over Emmett. A love that might look shallow on the surface, but runs deeper than any romance in the series. Because Rosalie doesn't love easily. She doesn't trust easily. Therefore, every bond she keeps is a battle won against her past. She also has a hidden tenderness with Esme, one that rarely shows itself in loud gestures, but in glances, in the way Rosalie listens when no one else does. Esme never forced Rosalie to be the daughter she imagined. She simply loved the one she got. And Rosalie, in turn, became Esme's fiercest defender. Rosalie also mirrors Carlisle in one subtle but powerful way. She sees pain and tries to fix it. Carlisle healed through medicine. Rosalie heals by protecting others from the loss she endured. Therefore, when Bella's life teeters between motherhood and mortality, Rosalie steps in. Not just as a defender, but as someone desperate to preserve what she could not. There's also her quiet tension with the Volturi, a coven of law, power, and fear. Rosalie may not have challenged them openly like Alice or Edward, but she watched. She remembered. She never trusted them, especially after witnessing their readiness to destroy what they didn't understand. The Volturi hunted immortal children, a law Rosalie understood, but mourned. Perhaps it was another reminder of what she couldn't have. In Renesmee, she saw not danger, but a child spared from that law's cruelty. Therefore, she stood her ground. She would not let history repeat itself. When the Cullen family gathered their allies to protect Renesmee, Rosalie didn't hesitate. She wasn't just a defender of blood, she was a defender of possibility. In many ways, Rosalie Hale is the foil to Bella Swan. Bella is ordinary, human, and willing to give up everything for a new life. Rosalie is extraordinary, immortal, and haunted by what she lost. But then, isn't that what makes their tension so compelling? When Rosalie tells Bella her story, it's not out of cruelty. It's a warning. Don't be me. Don't lose what you have before you understand what it costs. That's not jealousy. That's pain. And maybe, just maybe, it's also hope that someone else will choose differently. Let's return to that snowy alley. To the moment a dying girl became a predator. To the moment she chose not to become a monster. Rosalie Hale was never a side character, never just the pretty one. She was a survivor who became a protector. A woman who remade her pain into armor. A vampire who refused to let go of her humanity, no matter how many centuries passed. And the world never knew what to do with a woman like that. So what do we leave the audience with? Not a portrait of perfection, but a legacy of resilience. Not a cautionary tale, but a reminder. And a question. If you had the power to remake your life after your greatest trauma, would you seek vengeance or healing? Would you lose yourself in the fire? Or rise from it, like Rosalie Hale?